Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close-Up, finding voters at the Iowa State Fair. The key conversations both Republicans and Democrats say are happening at the fairgrounds. And proposing a new program to feed kids in the summer. Iowa leaders explain what they'll be doing instead of summer EBT. Getting ready to harvest one of the biggest corn crops Iowa has ever seen. How the influx could affect the ag economy for our state.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning and welcome to KCCI 8 News Close Up. I'm Ophelia Jacobson, filling in for Amanda Rooker this morning. Today is the last day of the Iowa State Fair. It's a great place for food, entertainment, and lots of fun. But both Republicans and Democrats also see it as the perfect opportunity to speak with voters. I visited the two parties' booths at the fair this year to see how they're engaging with Iowans ahead of the November election. Every year, thousands of people flock to the Iowa State Fair for 11 days of food and fun. People crowd the grandstand for concerts and pack the many buildings to look at unique exhibits. Inside the Varied Industries building, hundreds of vendors set up camp to attract visitors. That includes the Iowa Democratic Party and the Republican Party of Iowa.
The Iowa State Fair is an icon for Iowa.
The two are stationed next to each other, both booths clearly marked and ready to engage voters.
Having both political parties there is an iconic presence.
Iowa GOP Chairman Jeff Kaufman says being at the fair is a lot of work, but he believes it's worth it to have conversations with voters about issues like the economy and immigration.
There's so many people, so much opportunity for interaction with people that may not come to Republican events or be at rallies.
This year, the party is displaying this poster featuring former President Donald Trump and his running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Fairgoers can sign the poster. Literature also lines the tables, providing key information on candidates and important dates.
We've had many people register to vote as Republicans. Especially sweet is when we have Democrats coming up and registering to vote as Republicans.
People can also register to vote at the booth. They can also register just a few feet away. The Iowa Democratic Party.
We have registration forms available, and we've been receiving them throughout the entire fair, and we're excited about that as well.
Iowa Democratic Party Chair Rita Hart says the booth is a great place to give out and receive information. She says they've been talking with voters about what issues matter most, like abortion and education.
We're allowing them to say, hey, I'd like to volunteer, or I need to know more about this issue, or I'd like to know about this candidate.
Hart says they've been giving out a lot of merch and campaign signs, and she says they've had to restock supplies multiple times. She believes the enthusiasm is on their side, especially with Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on the top of the ticket.
We've got some renewed energy here, as everyone knows.
Kaufman says they were worried about enthusiasm at the fair this year following the many presidential visits during the 2023 State Fair. He says the energy this year is higher than last because of Trump.
Trump generates his own energy. And then, of course, we also have at our booth, at times, we will have congressional candidates.
Kaufman says they're also focused on down-ballot voting, scheduling booth takeovers with all four congressional candidates.
With Trump's lead as it is in Iowa, that is absolutely our number one priority, sending these four back.
Hart says the Democratic Party is focused on those elections, too. She says having Harris and Walz on the ballot will help them win locally. Hart says their goal is to restore balance in the state legislature.
People really are interested. These are the down ballot tickets that are important to them because they make the decisions that affect their daily lives.
Both Hart and Kaufman say being at the Iowa State Fair is iconic. The two party chairs say they welcome the friendly competition here and across the state.
We're engaging with them, we're listening, we're finding out what really is resonating with the people of Iowa.
There's a lot more at work out there at that fair than sweating and giving away swag. It's about democracy in practice right here in the heartland.
And we are now less than 3 months from the general election in Iowa's 3rd congressional district. Republican incumbent Zach Nunn is facing off against Democratic candidate Lanhon Beckham. The 3rd district covers southwestern Iowa and includes Des Moines, Adel, Ottumwa, and Red Oak. I spoke with KCCI political analyst Dennis Goldford about the state of the race. The race for Iowa's 3rd congressional district seat is heating up with less than 3 months left until Election Day. Incumbent Republican Zach Nunn is seeking re-election to a 2nd term against Democrat Lanhon Beckham.
Quite often the 3rd district is more competitive, but it's especially competitive this year because we have a first-term member of Congress running for re-election. And unless you're in an overwhelmingly partisan district, completely Democratic or completely Republican, when you get in that first time, we don't know if it's a fluke or not. And so you run really hard for that first re-election bid.
In 2022, Nunn defeated the Democrat incumbent at the time, flipping the district from blue to red.
Zach Nunn is in his first term. He's running extremely hard for re-election. He's been advertising to a remarkable extent, at least on Des Moines Metro television. But he's trying to put out an image of a certain amount of bipartisanship.
Goldford says running against an incumbent is always tough. He says Beckham faces several challenges in this race.
The key thing for a congressional race is organization. Can you get people organized to get out there and work for you? An incumbent, by definition, already has an organization, otherwise he or she wouldn't be the incumbent. A challenger's usually got to build that organization from scratch. He's also got a money challenge. He has significantly less money than Congressman Nunn. And he started to do a little local advertising at this point.
Both candidates have launched television ads in recent weeks. Goldford says the messaging in those ads could be critical leading up to November 5th.
The key thing in winning an election, whether it's presidential or congressional or mayoral, is to be able to define yourself as positively as possible and to define your opponent as negatively as possible. So far, at least in the 3rd district, the ads have been trying to define each candidate, but they haven't been nasty yet. We'll hope they don't get there. But of course, the tighter the race is or possibly might become, there's more of a tendency on the part of campaign strategists to go negative.
Goldford says as we inch closer and closer to the election, ads in this congressional race could become more issue specific. He says September and October will be when voters start to pay more attention to the race.
You know, to a great extent, American politics, unfortunately, has been nationalized. And so people look at even the most local concerns through a national lens. But we still have a local focus to a great extent here in Iowa. And of course, it's always a matter of particular state-oriented issues, whether it's pipeline issues or agriculture issues. People are always concerned with the state of the economy and what they're going to do to improve the economy or make sure the economy continues to operate as most people want it to operate.
Goldford says we typically see a higher turnout in a presidential election year, but he says many people will only cast a vote for president and ignore the rest of the races. Goldford says both Beckham and Nunn need to encourage voters to fill out the entire ballot.
I think both sides emphasizing to their supporters, please vote a straight ticket. Just press the Republican button for everybody all the way down or press the Democratic button for everybody all the way down.
And coming up on KCCI 8 News Close Up, the number of Latino voters is growing in Iowa and across the country. The issues some say the candidates will need to focus on to win their support. And Iowa is on track to produce the 3rd largest corn crop this year. What that means for Iowa's farming community. We'll be right back. The Democratic National Convention begins Monday, but the ticket is already set. Delegates voted virtually at the beginning of the month to nominate Vice President Kamala Harris to be their presidential candidate. She chose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. They will formally accept their nominations on stage in Chicago next week. Headliners at the convention include former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. President Joe Biden will also speak. President Biden backed Harris shortly after dropping out of the race. In July, she raised more than $300 million and won major endorsements. This month, the League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, announced their endorsement. I'm joined now by Joe Henry, the state political director of LULAC here in Iowa. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Now, in the past, LULAC historically hasn't endorsed a political candidate. Why change that now?
After 95 years, yes, now this is the first time, but this is a very significant election. And discussions have always occurred on should we do a PAC, so it has finally happened. The issues are important. The focus has been upon the immigrant community, on the Latino community with these presidential campaigns, so we need to make sure our voice is heard. So we applaud our national leaders for developing this PAC and endorsing Harris and Walz. Very important.
The Latino vote is growing across the country. What kind of impacts do you think candidates will see this election?
Well, you know, clearly 1 out of every 5 voters this time around will be a Latino voter. In 2020, we had a very high turnout within the Latino community. We see that as being even higher this time around. Close to 60% of our eligible voters did vote in the 2020 election. So we see this time in the mid to high 60% rate of our Latino voters. There's about 35 million eligible Latino voters in our community. So before, 18 to 19 million did vote. We see it now coming up to the mid 20s in voting.
What do Democrats need to do up and down the ballot to really win that Latino vote?
Well, it's about the issues, and it's also about outreach too. So reaching out to our community, doing mailings, phone calling, door to door is very important. The issues have always been the same between the Latino community and all voters: jobs, healthcare, education. Of course, immigration is another key part. We applaud the Harris campaign for actually bringing on Latino consultant. Solidarity Strategies is working with the Harris campaign to do outreach in key swing states. So we see things happening in Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and those are key areas because of the high population of our community in those states.
Well, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this historic endorsement. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And according to a report published by the State Data Center of Iowa in 2023, the Latino population in our state in 2060 is projected to be more than 500,000 people. I spoke with Republican strategist David Oman about how Republicans can win the Latino vote.
I don't think you run a campaign where you go segregate and go talk to this group and then run over. You want to have a good, strong, bold message. And hopefully you've got some people in the Latino community, in the Black community, in the Asian American community who like that message and support those candidates, and let them talk to their friends and neighbors and family and co-workers and tell them why they're voting, in this case, why they're voting Republican. A lot of those families that we're talking about, again, focusing on Latinos, have the same concerns every other Iowan has. How are we going to make it? How are we going to afford our cost? How are we going to deal with the family budget? And if they vote their pocketbook, I would hope most of them would think twice and maybe think about the Republican choices. I talk to people from all walks of life in Des Moines, and the Latino community and others care about the border. Their parents or grandparents, perhaps, or family, distant family, came here legally a generation or two ago. And I hear them talking that they're concerned about anybody coming across the border without having to wait in line, the way their ancestors waited in line. So border security also is a hop, skip, and a jump to national security. You don't change your message that much depending on who you're talking to. If you have a strong message on the border, a strong message on national security, a strong message on economic security and energy security, that should appeal to all kinds of people.
How do you think Republicans have done in engaging the Latino vote over the past couple of years historically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would like to say that we've done a better job. I'm not sure I can say that. There have been efforts made for sure, and we applaud those. But again, because this is a growing part of our population, and the Asian American percentage of our population is growing as well, I think our party can and should do more. Meet people where they are. Show up at their events.
Demand for Iowa products, what Iowa Secretary of Ag says needs to happen to help move one of the state's largest corn crops ever produced. Welcome back. A new report published by the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows Iowa farmers are projected to harvest the state's third largest corn crop this fall and the state's second largest soybean harvest. Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig tells us what this means for the state. We are joined today by Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig, who's taking time out of his busy schedule here at the Iowa State Fair to talk with us. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Happy to visit, and another great day at the Iowa State Fair.
Amazing. So I wanted to ask you about a USDA report that shows that Iowa farmers will produce the state's third largest corn crop this fall. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we knew, even with some of the severe weather that we've seen, you know, some winds, some hail, the flooding in northwest Iowa, that large parts of the state were seeing really good rainfall, which was going to lead to some significant crop production. So, and of course, as we hear about things in the eastern Corn Belt, Illinois, Indiana, and stretching on east, that they had looked really strong throughout the year. So the report was not a surprise at all, because we knew that there was a significant crop. Now, what that has meant, though, is we're going to have a lot of corn that we're sitting on top of, and so it really drives home the importance of making sure that we've got markets for the things that we produce.
How will this harvest impact Iowa's farm income?
Yeah, well, already farm income had been projected by USDA to be down roughly 25% this year, and so we were already coming into a year with some concerns. But now, as you've seen these commodity prices continue to fall, I think what you have to acknowledge is that there's definitely a softness in the ag economy, and you know, everybody's balance sheet is different, but a lot of farms, the price that you would be paid for corn and soybean today, or as it comes out of the field this fall, is below the cost of production. That's clearly not sustainable. Agriculture is cyclical. We know that throughout our history. It's just a question of how do you ride through those cycles, and how fast do we return to profitability. But that farm gate softness then translates into softness in the rest of the ag economy, equipment manufacturers or folks that supply services and equipment to farms. And so we're definitely seeing that play out now across the ag economy.
Now, a two-part question. How do you think this will impact small Iowa farmers, but also industrial agriculture?
Well, it's all connected, right? Again, if your profitability is, if you're underwater at the farm gate, meaning you're not making money on this year's crop, then you're going to delay decisions, purchases, expansion or building projects for livestock producers, and then that translates into, an economic hit to those suppliers, those manufacturers. And so we're seeing that now. We've had some pretty high-profile layoff announcements from some large manufacturers, and that just happened. That just moves throughout the ag economy. So it absolutely affects those farms. Though there are, things like crop insurance and farm programs that help manage risk. For times just like this, where a farm, you're never made whole when you have situations like this. But what we're trying to do is ride through the rough patches so that you can get out into a future year where you are more profitable.
And you mentioned those layoffs at companies like John Deere.
Yeah.
You had the Tyson pork plant in Perry that closed. What are you all doing as state leaders to kind of help that?
Well, certainly I have to defer to the governor's office and workforce development, economic development as it relates to displaced workers, that sort of thing. But I think, again, and these aren't immediate fixes, but it is why we are always talking about, do we have markets for the things that we produce? Iowa is an incredibly productive state. We're always going to produce more here, and have for years, than we consume in this state. So that means we need to be thinking about markets outside of our borders, certainly, but international markets as well. So that's why you hear us talk about, we grow corn and soybeans really well in this state. We're one of the nation's leading producers. Well, what do we do with that crop? Well, we feed it to livestock. Higher value, that protein then is something that drives value back to our communities, but also things like biofuels, ethanol, biodiesel, renewable diesel, the future looking at sustainable aviation fuel, right? We need to be focused on the things that drive demand for the things that we produce and increase the value of those products.
Last question for you. Obviously, Iowa is a big agricultural state. How do you think this year's harvest projection will impact the economy?
Yeah, well, prices have reacted to that farm report, the indications that we will see strong yields, not just in Iowa, but states to our east in particular. That has driven down the price of commodities like corn and soybean, and so you are definitely going to see some profitability issues with farmers. And again, when farmers are struggling with profitability, they will delay decisions. They will have to make decisions that then ultimately can affect the rest of certainly the ag supply chain, but the communities that surround those farms as well. So, we're looking at definitely a softening ag economy. Hopeful, though, that the demand side of that equation will continue to grow, and we can see these prices return.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on KCCI 8 News Close Up. We appreciate your time.
You bet.
Welcome back. The Iowa Department of Health and Human Services has submitted a waiver request to the U.S. Department of Agriculture for the 2025 Summer EBT program, also known as Sunbucks. Governor Kim Reynolds says Iowa is proposing its own program instead. I spoke with HHS Director Kelly Garcia about the decision. And so does this mean you're opting out of the Sunbucks program?
No, it doesn't. It means that we're creating a tailored program to really meet the needs of what we see today in Iowa.
Director of Iowa Department of Health and Human Services Kelly Garcia says the state is looking to create a new summer feeding demonstration project for 2025. Garcia says their proposal will focus more on nutrition.
But we're going to use existing infrastructure, our partners that really do this work all day, every day on the ground, and meet the needs of families today, but expand upon that existing network of individuals. So think food banks and community action agencies, but partnered in schools.
It will be the second year Iowa will not participate in the Summer EBT or Sunbucks program after opting out for 2024.
I think we really fundamentally believe that a cash benefit card doesn't address the unique needs of what we see in Iowa today.
The Des Moines Area Religious Council was one of several organizations that advocated for the state to opt into the Summer EBT program.
There's just a lot of uncertainty moving forward as far as what this program might look like and what it's going to be.
Blake Willardson is the marketing communication manager at DMARC. He says the proposal from the state comes as they're seeing more people visit their pantries.
Yeah, we're really excited to see that the state's taking some action here next summer as we're seeing the record level of need that we're seeing at the food pantry level here.
Garcia says the state had a conversation with the USDA Thursday. She says Iowa is the first in the nation to submit a demonstration project like this.
We're really hopeful that USDA comes back to the table and we're really able to negotiate this program and launch it here in Iowa next year.
Thank you for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. We will see you back here next Sunday. Have a great day.